My name is Reham. I'm assistant professor at the British University in Egypt, and I'm ERF affiliate. My project is talking, actually it's co-authored by Ronia Hawash. She's working at the Butler University, the USA. My project is talking about inequality of opportunity in education evidence from the MENA region. So at the beginning, we're going to highlight the context of the MENA region and the problems of the educational system in the MENA region. Education system in the MENA region is a part of underdevelopment rather than a solution. Among the problems that we have is the low school quality, where basic skills has not been learned. MENA region is still below the expected benchmarks and show unfair access to learning opportunities according to the TIMSS. However, since 1960, the level of schooling in the MENA region focuses more on access to schooling, and level of schooling has been quadrupled, and the net enrollment rose from 86% to 94% over the period 2000 to 2016. The problems behind this low school quality, it could be the inadequacy and inefficiency of public spending on education, the overcrowded classrooms, the inexistence of vocational training, and also missing the link between education and employers. Also, among the literature that has examined the association between education and the labor market, we found that that returns to education in the MENA region is the lowest compared to any other region. Unemployment rate is really very high among those with secondary and university graduate students. The inability to have privileged jobs among the middle class graduates not only generates frustration among the educated youth, but also it considered one of the main problems of the Arab Spring uprisings. Also, private tutoring is considered a widespread and extensive phenomenon in the MENA region, and it's considered a very important element for succeeding in schooling, particularly for those who can afford. However, theoretically, public education is free in Egypt at all levels, even the higher education. Additional supplements are really required to improve children's performance and offer them an edge in the labor market. So it ends up subsidizing the rich instead of the poor. The objective of this project is first to investigate the education distribution among different quartiles of population, and then we identify the most significant determinants of education and inequality in both urban versus rural locations in the countries under study, and then we will explore the changes in education inequality over time. The time span under which covered by the study is from 1996 to 2016. We will have a look on, we use the data of the CAIRO harmonized hikes data sets, and the countries that are covered in the project is Egypt, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, and Palestine, and this is because they have at least 2 waves. So Egypt, we do have like 6 waves, Iraq 2 waves, Israel, we do have 5 waves, Jordan, we do have 5 waves, and Palestine, we have 2 waves. So the key outcome is education and inequality. We use the REF approach, which is implemented in the case of Gini coefficient in order to see how education and inequality varies across the entire distribution in each country. And then we decompose the education gap by income quartile into the contribution of the differences in both the distribution of household characteristics and the return of these characteristics on education and inequality. Among the covariates that used in this model is household income, household number of children, number of earners in household, consumption expenditure, health and education expenditure. We're going to have some flavors about how the data looks like. This is the use of schooling, the mean use of schooling by region and country. And as we see, Egypt and Iraq, the rural population have lower years of schooling than urban. Palestine and Jordan, the difference is not that much significant, but for Israel, rural population have higher years of schooling on average than urban. And then we will go for the distribution of years of schooling by income quartiles in each country. We will start by Egypt. What the findings shows that since 2011, years of schooling in Egypt has been declining in the lowest quartiles from 4.2 years of schooling to 3 years of schooling for the urban locations, and from 3 to 1.7 in rural locations. There is a drastic difference between the lowest and household quartiles, which is almost 7 years for urban areas and 6 years for rural areas in 2015. This is the red rectangles. The lowest quartile, which is 1.7 years for Egypt in 2015, is considered the lowest compared to the countries under the study that has been tackled in this project. When it comes to Iraq, we see that years of schooling is pro-reach. It increases as income quartiles increases. It's really high for urban areas compared to rural areas. But however, the differences between the lowest and highest quartiles is not that much drastic as the case in Egypt. It's 1.5 years for rural areas and 2.5 for urban areas. For Jordan, which is really very striking, that that years of schooling, again, it's higher for urban areas compared to the rural areas, and the differences between the lowest and the highest quartiles is almost 3 years for both regions. As income quartile increases, years of schooling increases, but it declines over time. For Israel, minimum difference found between lowest and highest income quartiles. The differences between locations is not that much significant, and there is a slight increase in years of schooling over time. Coming to the Gini coefficient index for each country separately, we start with Egypt. The Gini coefficient has been declined from 0.5 to 0.4 over 1999 to 2015. Which is education inequality has decreased over this time span. It's still very high for rural areas compared to urban areas. For Iraq, it is stagnant over the period from 2000's Gini index. It's stagnant. It's almost the same in the period between 2007 and 2012, and it's high again. It's education inequality is high for rural areas compared to higher areas, but it declines over time. Israel, no significant difference between rural and urban areas. Gini coefficients is almost the same over the period between 2007 and 2016. And finally, Jordan, Jordan, education inequality, it is raised from 0.3 in 2002 to 0.4 in 2013. Much deterioration goes for rural location compared to urban locations. And Palestine, it's almost the same which is 0.3 over the period from 2005 to 2011. And there is education inequality, or the education inequality here is higher for rural areas compared to urban areas. This is the REF regression results, which has really confirmed the stylized fact that we have just mentioned. If the household, here actually, I put the year diamonds, there is in the paper the year diamonds, but I have removed it because the table is really very large. I put the characteristics of households that contribute to education inequality in the 5 countries. And we see here, if the households is male-headed, it reduces education inequality in Egypt, Iraq, and Jordan, and Palestine. However, it increases education inequality in Israel. And being ever married, it increases education inequality in Egypt. It is not significant in Iraq. It reduces education inequality in Israel, and it increases education inequality in both Jordan and Palestine. Also, number of children, except for Palestine, increasing number of children inside the household, it increases education inequality for all countries except Palestine. For disposable income, increasing disposable income reduces education inequality in Egypt, Iraq, Israel. However, it's insignificant for both Jordan and Palestine. Consumption expenditure, it increases education inequality in Egypt, and it reduces education inequality in Iraq, and it increases education inequality, it decreases education inequality in Israel and Jordan. And it's not significant in case of Palestine. Health spending, it reduces education inequality in Egypt. However, it increases education inequality in both Iraq and Israel. It's insignificant in both Jordan and Palestine. Educational spending, it reduces education inequalities in the 5 countries, and it is significant. Locating in rural location, it increases education inequality in Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, and it reduces education inequality in both Israel and Palestine. This is the REF results that I have just mentioned. The conclusion that I got, that the findings reveals that the urban-rural education inequality shows that households located on urban areas continue to be much favored than households located in rural areas, except for Israel. And the decomposition of the real poor education inequality reveals that education gap appear to increase for the poor compared to the rich. Education inequality decline for Egypt, Iraq, and Israel, and the gap is still very wide for the case for Jordan. The policies that recommended from this project, first, we should improve rural location either by the provision of schools, trained teachers, or revisiting the curriculums. Also, policies should target families' demographic characteristics through planning and awareness campaign for the poor living in poor rural areas. Also, besides more social security programs like the Takaful and Karama in Egypt targeting the poor, it's able to squeeze the gap between the poor and rich by giving cash transfers for the poor families to help them to educate their children and motivate social mobility. Thank you very much.